I don't know. All right.
Well, okay, I'm gonna
Are you ready?
mute everybody, and then
Okay.
so you have to turn your own mics on if you're going to intervene or something.
Why can't I?
We'll see if I can do this production stuff.
And I say
We're 1 minute over.
got it. Never
What?
mind. There's a
Hello?
movie, Perfect Days, which came out like last year. It's Vin Vendor's director. It's about a guy who works in Japanese restrooms, and it's pretty amazing
Cool.
what he does. But yeah, anyway, it's a pretty fantastic public bath. I mean,
Okay, here we
restrooms.
go.
Can you see that okay?
Oh, thank you, James. Excellent. Whenever you're ready, I guess.
Konnichiwa, konbanwa. Kagoshima kara ohayo gozaimasu. Hello, good evening and good morning from Kagoshima, Kyushu, Japan, in the shadow of Sakurajima volcano over there.
All right.
My name is Joe Penn, and I will not be your cook this evening. I'll hopefully be avoiding lava flows with the good blessings of the Terakuni Shinto shrine, which we stand before right now. I thought we might get a little blessing to ward off any possibility we might be covered in soot. I've been testing my luck first in Bangkok with the earthquake, and now all of this volcanism and seismic activity and going on in South Korea and Japan. I think we might try to get a blessing. But I'm joined by Ann Lee, a retired college professor and community member at the Daily Kos. She's a member of the National Council of Independent Scholars and is a contributor to the book, The Political Economy of Art, Making the Nation of Culture. Evening, Ann.
Hey there, Joe.
Hey, we were to be
Ohio.
joined by our dear rebel North American Walter of the North 48 podcast to get us an update on the Canadian elections, but he'll return next week. But yeah, we're in Kagoshima, special part of Japan. This particular shrine was, let's see, considered the dwelling place for the kami or the divinity, the spirit, the entity or deity of Shimazu Nariakira, who was a Japanese leader fascinated by Western culture and technology, and was a great studier of it, and led to the kind of opening up of Japan in the mid 1800s. So there was a number of his proteges that went on a trip to all around the world, studying various technologies, and they gathered up all of the ideas and saw what fit and matched to Japanese culture, and they started implementing industrialization here in Japan. But back to the blessings, and I believe you had a few things you could read for me. I'm a little bit rusty on religious ceremonies, but when you, I believe, before you enter the temples, you must bow first.
Yes, I
Got
put it in
that.
the I put it in the chat. It's the etiquette is bow at the torii
Yeah,
before entering a shrine. It's customary to bow slightly
yeah.
at the torii gate, which signifies the transition from the mundane to the sacred.
And I'll be keeping quiet while Anne reads because I don't want to offend any of the potential worshipers or desecrate anything. They
Or
don't.
any
I
of
don't
those
believe they have anti-photography signs here.
No, you're just going to bother the spirits. The
Yeah.
second thing is to walk on the sides. When walking along the path leading to the shrine, always keep to the sides. The center path is reserved for the kami, or the gods, and walking in the middle is considered disrespectful. Now, the purification ritual will come after that. Before approaching the main shrine, visitors should purify themselves at the choizuya, the purification fountain,
Oh, you're getting ahead of me, Anne. Hold on a minute.
you're not to the purification
Almost. But I
fountain.
did want to point out this brilliant technique I've noticed in Japan, where they, in parking lots, they have a lot of gravel parking lots, and they put rope down, injected into the ground so that they have designated the parking areas. Oh, so orderly. It's ridiculous.
Come on, get purified.
Yes, here we go. Okay.
Choizuya.
So here's the water fountain,
This
purification
involves
fountain.
rinsing the hands and mouth with water using a ladle, following specific steps to ensure proper etiquette. You need to offer a coin next. When making an offering at the shrine, toss a coin into the offering box. The amount is not important, but many people prefer to use a 5 yen coin as it is associated with good fortune in relationships. For those in the pod, I put it in the chat. At the choyuza, you should have filled the ladle with water using your right hand, pour water over your left hand, then switch to your right hand, rinse your mouth using water from your left hand, and finally hold the ladle upright to let the remaining water drip down the handle. We can go back to the tape to see whether Joe has done
And
sacrilege. Offering process. After tossing a coin, if a bell is present, ring it to signal your arrival. This is a way to show respect and alert the kami to your presence.
you need bell.
Hell's bells.
What's a bell?
No bells.
Here's the coin, but I left all my coins at home.
Well, you could throw a bill in, couldn't you? Oh, you don't have any small bills.
Yeah. Any bell.
prayer sequence. We're not to prayer sequence yet. But let me read it anyway, so it'll come up again. Prayer sequence. The proper sequence at a shrine includes bowing, offering, ringing the bell, clapping, and bowing again. This sequence is a traditional way to communicate with the kami. Darn those kamis. You have to also, let's see, ima usage. Ima are used to write down wishes or prayers. Visitors can purchase these at the shrine and hang them on designated racks, allowing the kami to receive their messages.
That looked like a little tree with cranes on it. Well, was that what that was? Paper cranes.
If you ring the bell, you've got to ring it 2 or 3 times. After making your offering, bow deeply twice. Clap your hands twice, and then bow once more to conclude your prayer. After your visit, consider purchasing an ima, a wooden plaque to write your wishes on, which can be hung at the shrine for the kami to receive. So it's a dead drop. Ah, kami. So desu ne. Respectful behavior. Maintain a respectful demeanor throughout your visit. Avoid loud conversations, taking photos during prayers, or stepping on thresholds, as these actions can be seen as disrespectful. Finally, respectful departure. When leaving, it is customary to bow again at the torii gate, showing respect as you exit the sacred space. I hope you can remember all that, Joe.
I've been bowing so much.
That purification ritual with the water in the ladle, Jesus, you fill it with your right hand, you pour water over your left hand, switch to your right hand, rinse your mouth using water from your left hand, and finally hold the ladle upright to let the remaining water drip down the handle.
So this is the person that the shrine is venerating. So in Shintoism, they can be Shintoism. They can be deities. They can be sanctified people. They can be natural phenomena. But Shimadzu Noriya Kira from 1809 to 1858 was the 28th Lord of Shimadzu. Shimadzu. Nikita was born in 1809. He was cherished by his great-grandfather, Hide, who has had a keen interest in foreign culture. Because of this, Nikita also became very well versed in foreign culture and science. After China's defeat by Great Britain in the Opium Wars in the early 1840s, it was feared that there would be an attempt to colonize Japan too. Noriakira realized that Japan had to unite as a powerful and rich country to prevent this. He became Lord of Satsuma in 1851. Soon after, he had Shusaikan Industrial Complex built at Iso to manufacture ships, iron, textiles, and glassware. A telegraph office was established there too. He also understood that education was a key factor, and he oversaw the training of young men such as Saigo Takamori and Okubo Toshimichi, who these guys were sent with a delegation of business leaders, politicians, and students on a massive worldwide trip to study Western culture and technologies and come back to Japan. So this would have been the first opening up of Japan to the West, which on Kyushu was limited to Nagasaki. Actually limited to a man-made island off the coast of Nagasaki. So he was
yes.
one of the very few people who had met any Westerners in his time. Akira passed away in 1858, yet his dream of a united Japan was carried on by his younger brother Hisamitsu and nephew Tadayoshi, as well as men such as Saigo and Okubo, mentioned earlier. This bronze statue of Nariakira and those of Hisamitsu and Tadayoshi in the Tanshoen Garden here were made by the sculptor Asakura Fumio he was born in 1883 to 1964. These sculptures in this garden were from 1917. And they did, in the base of the statue, they depict industrial guns and ammunition, industrial scenes. Through the trees here, you might be able to see the peak of the volcano. Doesn't look like we've got any plumes out there, but I thought what I'd do is head up the mountain here and give us a better view. The residents of the area will look out the window every day, and depending on which way the plume is going, determine whether they're going to put their clothes out to dry outside or inside the house. And sometimes it's always giving off volcanic ash. So people will often have to wash their hair a couple times to get the ash out. I thought I'd just take a stroll while you regale us, Anne, of all of the positive things happening out in the world of politics.
Okey-dokey.
And
Well, let me also note, this is symptomatic of, as you talked about the shrine, the predominant set of ideas that Tokugawa shogunate, ended, it declined in from about 1853 and was overthrown by the imperial court in the Meiji Restoration in 1868. The Empire of Japan was established under the Meiji government, and Tokugawa loyalists continued to fight in the Boshin War until the defeat of the Republic of Ezo in the Battle of Hokodate in 1869. So, needless to say, there's been feudal strife that represents the diversity of it's a religious diversity as well relative to Shinto and Japanese Buddhism and Confucianism in terms of the dominant religions. Noting,
yeah,
of course,
I was surprised to learn that there's almost no distinction between, or there was almost no distinction between Buddhism and Shintoism as it occurred in
yes,
Japan.
yes, it's the merging of that side of the religion, yeah, it exists like that. Christianity was banned until 1853. So
Mhm.
there is, on the one
Yeah.
hand, diversity, on the other hand, merging. Needless to say, the state religion got them into a little bit of trouble. Let me begin to yak. It's been a busy week. The the whole silliness of right-wing fanaticism in the United States has continued to build. The reinforcement of a variety of bizarre declarations has occurred, including a reinforcement of the need to speak English in all transitions, the increased incorporation of local police into some sort of federalized police, that this is what was sort of expressed in one executive order, that there was, and you could do this under emergency powers. And of course, there is no emergency other than the quasi declaration of an emergency, which has not been affirmed by anybody else. So that's kind of what we've been running under. Needless to say, things that were embarrassing, like Michael Waltz being summarily removed from his national security advisor post because of Signalgate. And there was an initial report that Donald Trump, Emperor Trump, was very irritated when Signalgate started, and that Waltz was the key party. Although subsequently the diffusion of cause to assistants or flunkies or whatever minions wound up with essentially 3 to 5 aides being summarily removed from the national security apparatus. But Waltz has been kicked upstairs to be put forward as and yes, it is a Senate confirmable post, which should be very interesting. And I'm hoping that there will be quite an interesting set of questioning by senators, particularly Democratic senators, when Waltz comes up for confirmation for UN ambassador, because they're certainly going to ask him about Signalgate. So I think that will take up a significant amount of media time in the coming weeks. Needless to say, the approval rating for Trump has down to 39%. And this is pretty uniform across a variety of polling. So this is not a blip of one kind. The issue is, of course, there's lots of the subordinates, like Attorney General Bondi has been threatening lots of folks and spending more time on Fox News than actually in her office, apparently. Other things are happening, of course, the usual kinds of the continuation of not being able to get Kilmar Garcia, Abrego Garcia, from back from El Salvador has still not happened. And in the week that we've been off, apparently in an interview with ABC News, Donald Trump insisted. It took several minutes of badgering the Terry Moran, the ABC interviewer, badgered him to try and get him to admit that the photoshopped MS-13 was actually tattooed on Garcia's hand, Alberto Garcia's hand, when in fact it was put in, and you can see it pretty obviously by Photoshop. It was there obviously to help Trump with his sort of his usual spokesmodel thing, where he puts up an image like Vanna White and tries to convince you that that's the truth. Well, in fact, they had obviously given him one to show that the pictograms, the icons that were actually tattooed on Garcia's hands were they were iconic. They did not need alphanumeric images, and just as really terrible little Photoshop job. You can obviously tell that not much attention, although some attention, was paid to trying to make the numbers appear as if they were tattooed on the hand. And it's pretty clear that in subsequent photos of showing of the meeting, for example, of Van Hollen with Abreu Garcia in El Salvador, San Salvador, showed that the numbers and letters MS-13 did not appear on the hands, and there's a significant amount of photography to prove that. But Trump insisted, and I've spent as much time as Trump spent trying to insist on the reality of the photograph, of the altered photograph, as opposed to the reality. And so there has been considerable conversation about whether Trump is sort of, as they say, in cognitive decline because he's beginning to lose sense of time, announcing in one particular public thing that he had talked to some folks. I think the Philadelphia Eagles football team yesterday, when in fact it was several days ago, and that kind of temporal distortion, as it were, I think is part of just aging. Um, so that's been the week. It's been a week of claims and counterclaims. Trump on the 100th day, because we've hit the 100th day of the regime, decided to go to Warren, Michigan, in Macomb County, where apparently Trump always seems to go there. He never goes to Detroit. It's a winning county, a winning city. He's been there multiple times, making all kinds of interesting claims. That he was Michigan's Man of the Year, et cetera, et cetera. All of those have occurred generally within Macomb County, and his speeches are at Warren. Of course, Democrats are certainly using that site. I think Bernie made a speech from there as well. So it is an interesting site in which the speech that he made there was supposed to gloat on all of his successes. Well, as we know, there's very little in the way of success, although you can certainly make stuff up, and that's kind of what they're doing. That's kind of where we are, and people making stuff up, or Trump making stuff up, and his minions making stuff up, and of course arresting people and making stuff up. So the graduate student at Columbia who was arrested in Vermont, and fortunately the state authorities cut off the attempt to spirit him off to Louisiana or someplace, and so they had to hold him in Vermont. And ultimately, the judiciary at a variety of levels is stepping in, and he was just released. And so I think that's a cautionary tale for everyone. And of course, there's a current dispute about whether you are or aren't supposed to deny entrance or admission to warrantless searches or accosting by ICE figures, because there are still groups of folks who are incarcerated in a variety of places. Uh, whether they are or aren't in custody is in some cases, not all cases, but some cases, ambiguous. So it has been a task to try and track down all of these folks. It is still occurring. There was a case of a woman who had just moved from Maryland to, where is it, Kansas? Or Oklahoma, and she and her children were terrorized supposedly by agents of ICE or DHS who refused to identify themselves. And of course, what they did was they, following, as they say, for drug dealers, sort of
Civil asset forfeiture.
asset forfeiture, and took her entire savings. And they haven't returned it. Needless to say, if you're moving and you're there and your husband is in Maryland, you need money to, take care of your kids and do all kinds of stuff. And of course, they didn't do that. Needless to say, this is problematic. I wonder whether this is the case of, well, the government's argument is that people who had lived in the house before were subjects of interest. And so essentially they were, and I guess we're still receiving mail at this address, and therefore the authorities thought they could go in and terrorize everyone inside, breaking windows and doing other kinds of terroristic acts. And of course, leaving a trauma, which I hope will come up in a civil suit, and make it actually rather lucrative to be attacked by the government. Anyway, so that's happened. That's just one example among many. And what's more problematic of the last couple of weeks is that people have taken it upon themselves to act like vigilantes, pretending that they are members of the authorities and terrorizing people. Joe,
Yes.
you're pointing at a map.
Yes. Trying to make sure I get the correct path. Maybe we could take the quicker one. That
Oh,
must be.
a
Uh-oh.
shortcut, Joe. I
Uh-oh.
don't know. You better buy a squirrel.
Joe, this is not the time to play Candyland.
Better buy
Look
a
at the size of
squirrel.
this. Look at the size of this. Not sure the type of tree this is, but when we were on Yakushima, there were several thousand-year-old cedars, Japanese cedars. Kyushu portions of Kyushu are subtropical.
Nice to see lots of people on their morning runs.
Active. I believe
This,
we'll run into any marauding monkeys.
yes. Speaking of marauding monkeys, Trump's plans for the big celebration on his birthday, which is also Flag Day, etc. They, at the current moment, there is no apparent attempt to use tanks, main battle tanks, to roll up and down DC streets so far. What they are going to do,
ICBMs,
well, it just
rocket
hasn't been.
launchers.
I'm sorry. Well, yes, there's going to be other kinds of military equipment. I guess, 6,000 troops, a Stryker brigade. There's going to be enough. There'll be plenty of, North Korean style things to wave at folks. So, because it's all that he's about. Oh, yes, the Golden Knights parachute team will do a thing, and, whatever. It's going to be the same stuff that he attempted to do, I think, when he was in charge on July 4th. So, same difference, and hopefully there'll be rain that day, which will make it all even more amusing, which is what happened.
Where do you think the owners of Gadsden flags stand on this kind of behavior?
Well, it's that kind of amnesia they have. It's a weird kind of historical amnesia about what exactly counts as patriotism and being a patriot. Whether we stand for any kind of rule of law or it's just law determined by a single character, which does seem to be why this nation separated itself in armed struggle in the 18th century. But anyway, uh, it just seems kind of
Kind of,
weird.
kind of paper over that issue in the history books.
Well, that's
Certain history books.
History books are going to be revised. Oklahoma
Ooh.
history books, I think, are going to assert that the 2020 election was still contestable. And so revisionist history is going to run in certain states anyway.
Wow.
Revisionist history will reign. It'll be just weird. And unfortunately or fortunately, kids will discover once they get out of escape school at that level in secondary school, by the time they get to college, they might find out something different, thank God, which is the case. A lot of people still retain the kind of primary school kind of education or histories, and do not get disabused of actual history when they actually are confronted with it, which is very disconcerting for teachers at higher levels. The persistence of certain ideas, but as Stephen Miller has said, I want to make children learn to be patriots. He wants, which is also, I think, what Goebbels wanted to do with Germans. So, it's all there.
Yeah,
And then,
history professors are the only professors that wish their kids weren't prepared before coming to their classes because they spend so much time kind of unlearning certain things.
there's so much to unlearn. It's just unfortunate. It's just sad. Yes, revisionism is everywhere. And then I've discovered that people who I thought at least were sane, but they're not sort of sane. For example, Neil Ferguson, the historian, is also attends the Bilderberger meeting, so I have no idea what's going on now in the world. It's just I don't know. Not like I believe in that stuff, but it really is amusing that I guess if I got an invite to go to the Burger meetings, I would go myself. But I just because I'd find it weird or amusing. So I think he came to be forgiven for showing up once, but if he shows up more than once, I have no idea what that means, other than networking. So
I think he's found the funding to easier for his historical pursuits.
well, he just I mean, he's a guy who has armies of graduate students to do other stuff for him. So whatever, he's one of those types. With nonetheless.
Speaking of shithead. Speaking
one
of
of one
again,
of our
look at this. This is
there we go.
what
Again,
A
with
rest
the
stop.
this is
A rest
again. A public toilet.
Are you going
A
to
rest
check whether
stop
there's a
in a
bidet
public
though,
park.
Joe?
Yeah.
There is no. I don't want to go in just in case someone's in there.
Yes.
It's guaranteed there's no bidet in the public toilet outside. The travesty, but at least there are a profusion of public toilets, free, not paid. I mean, it's absolute kind of basic civilization and 101 there. So fantastic. So within this square kilometer, there's at least 3 or 4.
Oh, people gotta, relieve themselves.
It's the city of Kagoshima looking south.
Nice.
Hello, California.
Wow.
Hey, everybody. This I'll wave to you now because I think this is about as close as I'm going to be able to get to California anytime soon. So,
Yes,
you
you're going to
guys.
be heading the other way.
Right, I see it right here through the window.
Here is Sakurajima, active volcano.
Heck of a volcano. I wonder about
Typically
air
we'll
quality there.
Well, they have plumes just about every day, so it varies depending on where the wind blows.
Yeah.
About half the population wears masks, but I haven't noticed any difference anywhere else in East Asia. That pretty much a 50-50 split between maskers and no maskers.
Hmm. Ring of Fire.
Down, down, down.
All righty,
Ring of
and let
fire.
me yammer for a second about other news. There was an agreement. The Ukrainians wanted security guarantees with their making of cooperative or bilateral mineral agreements with the United States. And the point was, of course, to ensure that a continued flow, and we hope that Trump will keep his word, of military equipment in that sense to tit for tat, etc., because essentially it was a shakedown by Trump on the Ukrainians to, some people would have called it in an earlier period imperialism. But anyway, so the Ukrainians have entered into a cooperative agreement of sort of not necessarily mutual security, but at least mutual support or engagement with to ensure kind of the U.S.'s place relative to the EU in the post-war economy. And this is all driving towards a ceasefire, which the Russians have not agreed to or have only declared a 3-day ceasefire in order to do the celebration of the end of the Great Patriotic War, the World War II celebrations that are going to occur in a few days. The Ukrainians have not agreed to this, so it would be a shame if a drone kind of just landed. It wouldn't have to explode even. It would just have to land in Red Square, and I think we would have a story. So I'm hopeful that the Ukrainians are thinking about this. Obviously, it would be a Pearl Harbor thing if something exploded, but if it didn't explode and it just simply landed in front of Putin up on the top of Lenin's tomb, it would be sort of amusing. But anyway, that's just that's some of the ways we think. Needless to say, there will be a parade for the Great Patriotic War. In prior parades since the invasion, the Russians have had to scale back, partially because showing some of the historical vehicles, like a T-34, etc., tank, sometimes unreliable. So there's that, and also that a significant amount of equipment is being used in Ukraine. Not all, though. There has been discussion that other resources, like tanks, are being repositioned along the Finland-Russia border. Now that is only one report, and I think there needs to be more evidence of it. But that's sort of interesting, if only because of all the usual issues going back, of course, to the Winter War of 1939 to 40, or the Second War, Winter War, in which Finns joined various allied Nazi forces in trying to stave off the response of Russians to to a German invasion. So there's that. I don't think the Finns really want the Karelian Peninsula back, but maybe they do. But anyway, so there's that. There's other side issues, Estonia, a variety of further attention to Russian shadow fleet oil tankers. There was some attention to Iranian. This is the latest bit, is some attention being paid to Iranian shadow oil tankers, because certainly action against one of those things could be an issue relative to issues in the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea, et cetera, which have had the usual bit of attempts by the Houthi to launch fairly large surface-to-surface missiles against aircraft carriers and a variety of other things. So stuff's happening. There is continuous, and yes, it's pretty continuous. That is, every couple of days, the United States drops bombs on Yemen in a variety of places, and with some result, one thinks. Although there's not much discussion of it, which is unfortunate. It would be sort of interesting to have mainstream media actually use their Pentagon reporters, even though some of them have been summarily kicked out of the Pentagon for a variety of reasons, to discuss reports on a bombing campaign on Yemen, which is what we're doing at the current moment. It's not like it's completely private. I mean, people, think tanks are reporting on those kinds of activities, as well as events in the South China Sea, which continue. There's continuing exercises, overflights, challenges of airplanes, and all kinds of other stuff going on in the South China Sea, as is probably happening every week, that are kind of interesting in the sense that it brings together and a variety of players in the region, including, for example, the Philippines. So that's occurring. So
Just to be
yes.
clear, you're talking about the U.S. making overflights in the South China
No,
Sea, or no?
no. It's it's overflights of the PRC Air Force doing
Mhm.
flights over contestable areas
Mhm.
in the strait between
Yeah.
Taiwan and
Okay.
China, and being challenged by the ROC, the Taiwanese Air Force. So that happens, and they pay attention to each other's little violations. And there's nothing that's been terrible. That is somebody trying to bump some other airplane, which has happened. Well, not so seriously, but at least in the American press, we do know when somebody acts stupid and tries to bump one of our reconnaissance planes, and that's actually that's happened a couple times. The and going back to the Ukrainian issue, we have lost and this is a while back. I think last year, lost a Predator drone to um, Russian MiGs uh, sort of bumping or hitting one of the or dropping fuel. There's a way in which you can release fuel on your fuel supply, and so they were screwing with a Predator drone and dropped it. So America did lose one, and they could have made a big deal out of it, but apparently they didn't. So, but that there are those little things happening. That it still is an interesting time, considering that drones are being built, blah blah blah, all kinds of um, I'm not sure that it's good for the Ukrainians to brag that they used an F-16 to knock down a drone when, if you just look at it from a cost point of view, I mean, that's why the Russians went to these really cheap Iranian designed drones and started making them themselves, because they're incredibly cheap. And knocking one down with an air-to-air F-16 missile is a little bit of a waste of money if we want to look at it just simply at that level. I mean, it takes a fair amount of tech to make one, and so that happened. That is happening. Although it is interesting to see F-16s doing what they are supposed to do. And there's this numerous discussion about the transfer of more planes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so there have been airstrikes over the past week, up to 180 or 200 drones being sent by the Russians on a couple of these days, particularly to try and threaten Ukrainians and the U.S. discussions that have happened, as chaotic as they were. But at least there's an agreement. Now, whether Trump is going to make any claims about that it is the end of something or other, when in fact there's no agreements about anything, it's simply an agreement about um, doing joint mineral exploration, or getting a certain percentage, or percentages to be determined, from the Ukrainians. So, in other words, America has a certain lock on a proportion of the mineral production of Ukraine, and that will obviously extend for a decade or something. And I think the Ukrainians are thinking, well, we know that's worth as much as the paper it's written on, so we probably will have other issues relating to that. Uh, Dave in the chat has shared with us that a woman carrying the Gadsden flag was trampled on January 6th. Yes, indeed. Oh, yes, that's right. Thank you, Larry. We did drop a F-18 overboard on one of our aircraft carriers. It just, I don't know. It probably slipped. Somebody did something wrong, because you're really not, those suckers are not supposed to fall overboard. um, but anyway, so a $65 million aircraft went into the water, and they're going to have to dredge it up, and hopefully it's not in deep enough water where they, at whatever. Um, so an F-8,
How's the undercoating on those things?
yeah,
They
indeed.
prone to rust?
So it dropping advanced fighters is not a good thing when they go overboard, and we're not even fleeing a country to dump something overboard. Let's see. Yes, Marianne suggested that. What is the reason to bomb Yemen now that the U.S. is allied with Al Qaeda? Indeed, it's just. I want Trump to stand up in a press conference and try and explain those kinds of nuances. That's what I want to have happen. Nobody asks about that kind of stuff. Or Trump just moves on in the questioning and doesn't quite answer anything because he's really not there. Anyway, I've been yammering in a significant amount. Um, Joe, I think, is fixed in one location, giving us a view of the volcano. Joe and the volcano, indeed. Uh, not a great movie. Not one of, was it Tom Hanks's best movies? So
No bad.
Little uneventful out here today. Beautiful view, though. Have to admit.
that is nice. A good thing for the morning.
A few days before, we had circumnavigated the volcano
Cool.
on electric bikes. It
Nice.
was 36 kilometers.
Nice.
Went over several different lava flows
Yes.
and buried half-buried shrines.
Yes.
Quite nice.
Nice. Nice.
There was I've never seen so many evacuation shelters dotted all around the island. There's various concrete structures to hide in if there's a big eruption, and specific evacuation ports all along the island where you run to get evacuated.
Ah, yes. Civil defense.
And on it's the first time I've ever seen drainage ditches for lava flows. So they try to direct where there's typical flows. They've built essentially drainage ditches to kind of try to manage the flow into the sea.
Nice. That's
Like
like the
colossal in scale.
lava diversion projects. I like
Mm.
that. I like that.
And then one of the beaches, you can dig up the sand, and it's still warm. Stick your feet in. With nice toasty foot bath. Hot
Thermal.
volcanic sand foot bath.
Nice thermals.
Mm.
Well, we're getting close to that time. At the bottom of the hour, Prof. John is going to give us episode 1, story 2, the housekeeper guided tour of Rod Serling's night gallery. John?
Yes. That's exactly what we'll be watching. And who is in that, you said? It's going to be I know it. I know it's going to be Larry Hagman.
Oh,
Jeanette Nolan.
yes.
And Susie Parker.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And one of those three people was a member of the Peace and Freedom Party.
Ooh, cool.
So I'll let you think about which one of them
Indeed.
had enrolled in that party.
Yes.
And did you know that Bob Avakian was the head of that party at one point?
Hopefully only at one point, because
yes,
that would certainly sully my sense of the Peace and Freedom Party and my occasional votes for them as a Californian.
Yes, it's a party that's mainly active in California, I believe, or only.
Well, and New York. I mean, the RCP is, well, anyway. All I can say is they have good graphic design. They've always had good graphic design. Anyway, along those same lines, I don't know if Susanna is going to show something tomorrow. Are you, Susanna?
Yes, thank you. Tomorrow night, Saturday at 7 p.m., we're going to present the timeless film from 1989, The Fabulous Baker Boys.
Ah, yes.
Starring Jeff and Beau Bridges and our birthday girl, Michelle Pfeiffer. And this film earned 4 Oscar nominations, including one for Our Leading Lady and for the great composer Dave Grusin. Thanks.
Indeed. And for forever embedding in our memory, the red dress, I guess. Anyway, thank you very much, Susanna. And so that's at 7 on Saturday. At 5, or is it 4? 4 on Sunday. There will be Star Trek: Next Generation. You want to talk a little bit about that, John?
Yes, so it will be the first episode of the second season of Star Trek. Commander Riker will have a different looking face.
Yeah.
And we will be introduced to the new Chief Medical Officer of the Enterprise, Dr. Catherine Pulaski.
Yes.
Am I going to be triggered, John?
Maybe. I think it'll make for interesting discussion. Let's say one of the Enterprise crew is impregnated without her consent.
Ah, yes. It's a good episode.
Okay.
I don't know whether the issue is going to be whether the entity is going to have citizenship or personhood or something. Yeah. We can have that discussion.
Right.
And after immediately after Star Trek Next Generation, I don't know if Lane is here. Do you want to talk about music on Sunday night? Lane is probably feeding Coco. So, but expect to have music after that. And I think, and at 2:00, because we've changed all the times, and eventually I think I'm going to move all of Dis and Dat to 4:00 during the weekdays. At 2:00 on Saturday and Sunday is Weekly Marks. Theories of Surplus Value, Chapter 5, I think, and either we'll finish off Chapter 23 in the 2024 edition of Marx's Capital, Volume 1, and start the next chapter. So that's kind of what is coming for the next couple of days. We have other regular programming. Please come to the autonomouscollective.net to examine those things. Let me signal to James, if he's still here, that we were ready to do the outro. All righty. Let us promise that we'll try and do better next week. That's my Tony Kornheiser suggestion. We'll try and do better next week. And perhaps by next week, we will get some ASMR food, among other things. Joe, do you want to say goodbye?
I will say goodbye and thank you. I will not be joining next week because I will be at 32,000 feet for many, many hours.
Oh, okay. Okie dokie. Then
Bad timing.
Well, I hope Walter will be able to join us, and then we'll be able to yammer. We'll come to revisit the what is the new Canada like now that it has a new prime minister, all those kinds of things. So if we're all set, we will let you go. At the bottom of the hour is Night Gallery, so please come join us, the autonomouscollective.net.